My name is Iris Marlowe. I am 32 years old. And until that morning, I thought the lock on my apartment door was the one part of my life my family could not reach. I lived alone in a smart building in Seattle. I worked long hours as a cybersecurity risk analyst and kept my home quiet on purpose. No toys on the floor. No spare bedrooms waiting for someone else's emergency. No one walking in unless I said they could. Then at 11:43 on a rainy Thursday night, my phone lit up while I was reviewing a security audit. The message was not a question. It was an order. My brother Derek's 2 kids were coming over the next morning, and I was going to watch them. I stared at the screen, waiting for the part where he asked politely or apologized for the short notice. That part never came. I typed back, "No, I am not available." His reply came almost instantly. "Doesn't matter. Mom gave me your key." Something inside me went completely still. Not angry, not loud. Just cold. I looked at my front door, then at the brass key hook by the kitchen, and I realized this was never about babysitting. This was about access to my home, my time, my money, and my peace. I did not call him. I did not beg. I opened my building app, called the front desk, and asked them to disable every outside access connected to my unit. Then I requested an emergency lock change before sunrise. I had not always lived this way. Let me explain how we got here. I lived in South Lake Union in a glass apartment building full of people who worked too much and slept too little. My unit was small but expensive, with a smart lock, a 24-hour front desk, and a view of the Space Needle if I stood near the kitchen window. I chose it because it felt controlled. Mine. My job was noticing weak points before someone exploited them. The cruel joke was that I had missed the biggest weak point in my own life for years. Derek Marlowe, my older brother, was 35, a sales manager for a medical device company, always talking like his next commission check would change everything. Always broke before it arrived. His wife Fiona worked at a boutique and filled her social media with coffee, spa days, and hotel mirrors. They had 2 kids, Mia, 7, and Caleb, 5. I loved those kids. Everyone knew it. My mother, Priscilla, knew it best. She had been a school administrator for nearly 30 years and spoke to adults like she still controlled a hallway full of students. Firm voice, raised eyebrows, no debate. When I got a bonus, Derek needed help with his SUV. When I saved money, Fiona needed help with a credit card bill. When I started working from home twice a week, my mother decided I was available for family errands. In 26 months, I had sent $11,600. SUV repair, credit card balance, summer program, birthday party, groceries, gas, school supplies, bills that were always urgent. Every time I hesitated, I heard the same sentence: "You are single. You do not have children. You can help." So when Derek texted me that Thursday night, a part of me had been waiting for it to escalate. He and Fiona had a leadership retreat in San Diego. Their flight was early and the kids would stay with me because my apartment was closer to the airport. He did not ask if I had work. He simply assigned me a job and expected obedience. When his reply confirmed my mother had given him my key and building fob, I remembered the pipe leak 2 years earlier. I had given her a spare key so maintenance could enter while I was out of town. She promised to return it. She never did. I had treated a key like a small thing. To them, it had become permission. I called the front desk. Aaron Price was working the night shift. I gave my name, my unit number, and stated that an unauthorized family member had a key and might attempt entry with 2 minors. He disabled the spare fob, removed my family from my approved visitor list, and scheduled an emergency lock reset. I told him to bill me whatever it cost. After hanging up, I took screenshots of every text, emailed the building manager, downloaded my call log, and created a folder on my laptop called Family Boundary Incident. Derek thought he had my key. He had no idea I was finally taking back the door. By midnight, my apartment was quiet. I opened a blank document and titled it Unauthorized Access Timeline. It felt extreme for a second, until I looked at Derek's message again. "Mom gave me your key. We will drop them off at 7. That was not a request. That was a plan built around violating my home. I started writing everything down with timestamps. Then I opened my banking history and searched Derek's name, then Fiona's, then my mother's. Transfer after transfer appeared, each one attached to a story I had believed just enough to send money. I exported everything into a spreadsheet. I was halfway through when my phone rang. Mom. I started a voice recording on my tablet and answered on speaker. She did not say hello. What did you do to the building access? Her voice was sharp, like I had stolen something from her. I said I had removed unauthorized access to my apartment. She snapped that Derek was my brother, not a stranger. I said a brother could still be unauthorized. That made her furious. She said 2 children were counting on me, that Fiona was exhausted, that Derek had an important retreat, and that I was turning a simple favor into a legal drama. I stayed quiet. I had learned that if I let my mother talk long enough, she eventually said the part she should have hidden. She did. She told me they had planned it this way because they knew I would say no if they asked too early. She said she gave Derek the key because I always resisted at first, but came around once the kids were involved. I looked at the recording timer and felt my stomach drop. It was not desperation. It was strategy. A key is not consent, I said. She laughed coldly and told me not to use corporate language with her. She said I was a daughter and a sister before I was whatever title my company gave me. I said I was also a tenant, an adult, and the only person who decided who entered my home. Her voice rose. She said Seattle had made me selfish. She said women with no husbands and no children always started thinking their time mattered more than everyone else's. The old guilt moved in my chest. Then I looked at the spreadsheet. $11,600. 26 months. I started reading amounts out loud. $1,900 for Derek's SUV. $2,400 for his credit card. $1,300 for Mia's summer program. $1,100 for Caleb's birthday party. $700 for groceries. $400 for a hotel deposit Fiona never repaid. $600 for a late utility bill. My mother shouted my name. I kept going. Then I said, I am not attacking you. I am being accurate. She said money was not the point. I said money was always the point when they needed mine. Then she said, if you do not open that door tomorrow, do not call me your mother again. For a moment, the apartment went silent. I thought it would break me. Instead, it clarified everything. I said, if being your daughter means surrendering my home, my money, and my right to say no, then I cannot afford the role anymore. She called me cruel. I said goodnight and ended the call. My hand shook. I did not cry. I saved the recording, exported the spreadsheet as a PDF, and attached everything to an email to my father, Graham. He had always been the quiet one, hidden behind the newspaper and my mother's voice. I wrote one sentence, Dad, I want you to see what actually happened before anyone tells you who to blame. He read it. He did not reply. Somehow that hurt more than my mother yelling. But it also told me something I needed to accept. Silence is a choice. And his silence had helped build this. I slept for maybe 90 minutes. At 6:15, I got dressed and walked to a coffee shop across the street. At 6:58, my building app sent a notification. Someone had attempted access with the disabled fob. Once, then again, then a third time. A text from Aaron appeared. They are here. I looked through the window. Derek's dark SUV sat at the curb with the back hatch open. 2 small rolling suitcases sat on the sidewalk, one pink, one blue. Mia stood beside them holding a stuffed rabbit. Caleb had a dinosaur backpack almost as big as his body. Fiona wore airport clothes and sunglasses despite the gray sky. Derek was stabbing at the call box like pressing harder would make it obey him. Then my mother stepped out of the passenger side. Of course she was there. I watched them enter the lobby after another resident came out. Aaron had already moved near the elevators, polite and firm. Derek held up a key. Fiona kept checking her phone. My mother pointed toward the elevators like she owned the building. Then a police cruiser pulled up. No sirens. Just 2 officers stepping into the rain. I closed my laptop and walked across the street through the side entrance. Derek saw me first. His face shifted from anger to brief relief, like he still believed my appearance meant surrender. Then he noticed I was not rushing toward the kids, not apologizing, not reaching for suitcases. His relief disappeared. "There you are," he said loudly. "Tell this guy to let us up." I looked at Aaron. He asked, "Do you authorize these visitors to enter your unit?" I said no. Fiona made a sound like I had slapped her. Derek stepped closer. "Iris, stop this. We have a flight." "I know. That is why you should not have built your travel plan around my consent without getting it." Officer Ramirez asked who had agreed to take responsibility for the children. Derek said I was their aunt. Ramirez did not blink. "That was not what I asked." Fiona said it was understood. I pulled out my phone and showed the officer my written refusal, then Derek's reply about the key. Ramirez read it twice. Officer Cole asked Derek if he had attempted to use a key to access my apartment after I refused childcare. Derek said, "It is not like that." My mother stepped forward and called it a family misunderstanding. Cole said family misunderstandings did not give anyone the right to enter a private residence. My mother turned to me. "You are humiliating us." I said no. "You plan to use my home without permission." I am refusing to hide it. Caleb started crying, quiet and tired. That almost broke me. I crouched a few feet away and said gently, "Hey buddy, you are not in trouble. None of this is your fault." Derek snapped. "Do not talk to him like you care." I stood up. Officer Ramirez told him to lower his voice. Fiona whispered that they were going to miss boarding. Derek pulled out his phone and started searching, probably for a last-minute sitter. My mother tried once more. "You are choosing a lock over blood. I am choosing consent over control." The lobby went quiet. Aaron printed a document and explained that due to the attempted unauthorized entry, Derek, Fiona, and Priscilla would be removed from my visitor permissions permanently. Officer Cole added that if they left the children in the lobby after I had refused, it could be documented as an abandonment concern. Fiona's face went pale. That was the moment the power shifted. They realized the world outside our family did not recognize my mother's rules. Derek stopped yelling. Fiona started calling emergency childcare services. My mother looked at me with cold fury and said, "You are no daughter of mine." I said, "Then stop trying to use my apartment like I am." 15 minutes later, Derek dragged the suitcases back toward the SUV while Fiona argued on the phone about same-day rates. My mother walked out first, stiff and silent. Mia looked back at me from the door. I lifted my hand. She waved. That hurt more than anything. When the lobby doors closed behind them, the silence felt strange and enormous. For the first hour, I sat on my floor with my coat still on, phone face down. I kept seeing Caleb's backpack, Mia's wave, Fiona's pale face at the word abandonment, my mother's expression when she realized I would not fold. Then the text came. "You made my kids cry. You embarrassed us in front of cops. You owe us for the rebooking fee." I muted the thread. Just after 1 in the afternoon, my cousin Ivy sent a screenshot. It was Fiona's Instagram story. Blue pool. Palm trees. 2 cocktails. A resort wristband on her wrist. The location tag said San Diego. The caption read, "Finally choosing peace." I stared at it until I started laughing. Not a happy laugh. It was the sound your body makes when the lie becomes too obvious to keep hurting the same way. They had made the flight. The world had not ended. The kids had not been abandoned by fate. Derek and Fiona had found a solution the moment the law told them I was not one. I screenshotted everything. That afternoon, my mother posted on Facebook without naming me, "Some parents give everything and still get punished with cruelty. Pray for a mother whose heart was broken today." The comments came fast. People called her strong. I almost replied. Then I stopped. My mother wanted a public emotional fight. She was good at those. I was good at evidence. I wrote one calm message and sent it to my aunt, uncle, cousin Ivy, my father, and my mother's older cousin Marcus. It said, "You may hear that I abandoned my niece and nephew this morning. That is not true. I was informed, not asked, that I would be babysitting. I refused in writing. My mother gave Derek an old key without my consent. They attempted to enter anyway. Building security and police were present because of the unauthorized access. I am not asking anyone to fight for me. I just want the facts documented. Then I attached everything. 23 minutes later, the family group chat exploded. My aunt wrote first, "Priscilla, why did Derek have Iris's key?" My mother replied that people were twisting a private matter. Uncle Robert asked about the police incident number. Ivy posted Fiona's resort story. Then Marcus asked the question that changed the tone. If Iris said no, why did anyone go to her building at all? My mother did not answer. Derek jumped in and said I had always helped before, so he assumed I would do the right thing. My aunt replied, "Helping before is not consent forever." I read that sentence 3 times. Then Uncle Robert opened the spreadsheet. $11,600, Derek. Are you serious? Derek said I was exaggerating normal family help. I uploaded one screenshot, the $2,400 transfer with Derek's message promising to repay in 2 weeks. He never had. The chat went silent. Then my father wrote, "Iris said no." That should have been the end of it. It was not a speech. It did not erase years of silence. But it was the first time he had contradicted my mother in front of the family. My mother left the group chat. Fiona deleted her resort story, but Ivy had saved it. Derek sent me one private message. "Hope you are proud of yourself." I did not respond. Pride was not the feeling. Relief was closer. Grief, too. The first thing I canceled was the recurring $200 transfer to my mother, labeled household help. I had set it up after she said prescriptions and groceries were getting harder to manage. It had been leaving my account quietly for almost a year, like a leak behind a wall. I canceled the family streaming account Derek used for free. I removed Fiona from my warehouse membership. I changed every password connected to my apartment, bank, phone plan, and delivery apps. By the end of that afternoon, my life looked the same from the outside. But it felt like I had locked more than one door. My mother tried calling from unknown numbers for 3 days. Derek sent long messages that began angry, turned wounded, then ended with money. He wanted me to cover the same-day sitter fee and the flight change because, in his words, my stunt created the expense. I blocked him. Fiona sent one message saying the kids were confused and I should be ashamed. I let silence answer. A week later, I booked therapy. Within 20 minutes, I was talking about being 16 and giving half my grocery store paycheck to my mother because Derek needed gas money. About Christmas gifts I bought and never received credit for. Family dinners where my mother praised Derek for showing up while ignoring that I had paid for half the food. Birthdays where I was expected to bring expensive presents because I had no children. My therapist said, "Your family made you their safety net and then called it love so you would not question the weight." I had spent years believing I was strong because everyone leaned on me. I had never considered that maybe I was tired because they were not supposed to lean that hard. After that, I started practicing small acts of ownership. I bought an ergonomic chair I had wanted for months instead of saving the money for someone else's emergency. I joined a boxing class 2 blocks away. I took a weekend trip to Portland with my friend Lena. We ate ramen, walked through bookstores, and spent too much on coffee. For the first time in years, I bought something unnecessary without comparing it to Derek's bills. 3 weeks after the lobby incident, my father called. When I answered, he said my name like he had practiced it. Then silence. Finally, I read everything. I saw the transfers. I heard the recording. Another pause. I should have stepped in years ago. It was easier to let your mother run the family than to challenge her. Then, you were right to change the locks. I pressed my hand over my eyes and said nothing. He did not suddenly become a different man. But he apologized without asking me to comfort him, and that mattered. For months later, Derek contacted me from a new number. The message was short and, for once, not asking for money. He wrote that they had hired a sitter for Fiona's upcoming work conference. Then another message appeared. "I guess that is what we should have done before." I waited for a full apology. He wrote, "I still think you went too far with the cops, but I get why you were mad. Half accountability is still mostly avoidance." I replied, "I am glad you arranged care for your children. I will not be available as a backup plan anymore." He wrote, "Understood." Not warm. Not loving, but different. My mother continued posting vague quotes about forgiveness and ungrateful hearts, but the family no longer rushed to comfort her. Her voice still had power, just not automatic power. Derek sold the SUV 6 months later. Uncle Robert told me nobody wanted to lend him money anymore because now everyone asked what happened to the last person who helped him. That should have felt victorious. It felt like freedom. A year after the morning in the lobby, I moved into a larger apartment 7 floors higher in the same neighborhood. Separate office, a real dining table, windows that caught the sunset when Seattle allowed one. The first night, I stood in the empty living room holding the only 2 keys. One stayed with me. The other went to Lena, sealed in an envelope, with a promise she would never use it unless I was unconscious or the building was on fire. We laughed, but both of us knew why the promise mattered. A key is not just metal. Sometimes it is trust. Sometimes it is access. Sometimes it is the difference between generosity and invasion. The audit I finished the night everything fell apart led to a bigger role. 6 months later, I was promoted to compliance lead. Better pay, more control, and enough savings that emergencies no longer felt like storms outside my door. For years, money had passed through my hands like I was only holding it until someone else needed it more. Now I watched my savings grow and felt something deeper than comfort. I felt evidence. Evidence that my life worked when I stopped funding other people's refusal to plan. I still loved Mia and Caleb. That never changed. I sent birthday cards through my father. Simple ones. No cash inside. No expensive gifts designed to prove I was still good. Just cards. Just love without surrender. The next time I saw everyone was at a cousin's wedding outside Tacoma. I arrived alone and, for once, that word did not feel like an accusation. It felt peaceful. I sat with cousins who asked about my job, my apartment, my boxing class, my trip to Portland. Nobody asked why I had not babysat. Nobody asked when I would make things right. The truth had already done its work. During cocktail hour, I saw my mother near the dessert table. She looked older, though maybe that was because I no longer saw her as the person who decided the size of the room. Our eyes met. She looked away first. Later, Derek approached me near the hallway. Fiona stayed behind him, holding Caleb's hand while Mia leaned against her side looking sleepy. Derek cleared his throat. "The kids missed you." I looked at them and smiled. "I miss them too." Then he said, "I should not have brought them to your building that morning." It was not a full apology for the years of money, the entitlement, the key, the threats, or the way he had let our mother turn me into the villain. But it was one true sentence. And sometimes one true sentence is where accountability starts. I said, "No, you should not have." He nodded. No argument, no performance. Just a nod. That was enough for the moment. Near the end of the night, my father walked me to my car. Before I got in, he said, "You look lighter." I smiled because it was true. He said he was proud of me, not for the promotion or the apartment, but for standing up and staying standing when the guilt came. Driving home, I thought about how strange healing is. It does not always look like everyone apologizing and sitting around the same table again. Sometimes it looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like a quiet phone. Sometimes it looks like spending your own money on your own life without asking invisible permission from people who trained you to feel selfish for having needs. I did not destroy my family. I did not punish children. I did not become cruel. I simply stopped confusing love with unlimited access. Family is not an excuse to use someone. Helping others is valuable, but only when it is freely given, not extracted through guilt. Boundaries are not selfish. They are a form of self-respect, and self-respect teaches everyone around you how responsibility is supposed to work. Love should create safety, not debt. The most important truth I learned is that rescuing people from every consequence can stop them from growing. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do, for yourself and for them, is to say no, step back, and let adults carry the weight of their own choices. Today, when I look back, I realize changing the lock did not just protect my apartment. It changed my entire life.